Arrow Season 2, Episode 20. I'm your host, Jenna Anderson. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Joining me today is Adam Barnhart.
What's going on, internet?
And Aaron Perrine.
What's going on, guys? We have a lot of stuff that's happened, haven't we?
We absolutely do. This is going to be a very chunky show. Beatty and our producer Richard are en route to Star Wars Celebration, and Jamie is dealing with renovations in her house. So we're still going to keep the party going in their absence. But yeah, we got so much to talk about today. We have the new Thor: Love and Thunder trailer to talk about. The reaction embargo for Ms. Marvel just broke, so we also can talk about that for the first time. And then we have a lot of MCU news, including a piece of news that I know Adam has a lot of thoughts about that I'm very excited to hear about. But yeah, just to start off, we can talk about Ms. Marvel. We have seen the first 2 episodes. We can't go too deep into spoilers. Obviously, we can't really share too much of a review, but we can share like our initial reactions. Adam, since you're at the top of the board, do you want to go first?
Yeah. See, I always tend to be sarcastic. I'm like, oh man, another show without Iron Fist. But no, it's an absolute delight. It is. It's. I don't know if this. I don't want to just go full hyperbole, but I think it seriously embodies everything Marvel's about. There's that, I don't want to call it senseless optimism, but it's that sense of, it's a coming of age tale, and it's super hopeful and super optimistic, and it's just like a superhero story through and through, but not, I mean, it balances the whole cosmic aspect and in things. Obviously we can't get into anything, but no, we watched the first 2 episodes. I mean, it could take a nosedive or something, probably not, but the first 2 episodes are absolutely great. I loved them.
Awesome. Aaron, what did you think?
So this is one of my more anticipated things for this year. So of course I had a lot riding on this, whether or not it was going to be what we all thought it was, and it is. So that's good. It's unyieldingly charming. From literally the first couple moments, I'm like, just like Ms. Marvel Volume 1 was a huge hit with young audiences, this is going to be a lot of young MCU fans favorite thing. You're going to see a lot of t-shirts. You're going to see a lot of backpacks, which is a good thing. I think it's really interesting that each one of these Phase 4 projects has really found some way to really separate themselves from the stuff that's come before while still obviously inhabiting this world. And her little slice of this world, Jersey City, is so vibrant and fun. And there's pop culture things from other stuff, sort of keys that older fans will be like, oh, look at that. That's really interesting that they made these choices. So kudos to the creative team. I can't wait to see more. I'm excited. I'm excited for y'all to see it.
1,000%. I echo what both of y'all said. I think we've spoken on the show about how we're kind of entering the happier era of Phase 4 after so many projects that are very emotionally dire, and I feel like this is the perfect way to kind of dovetail into that, because like Aaron said, this show perfectly encapsulates Kamala's world from the comics, and what made it so accessible and so good to comic readers. I feel like is going to translate really well on screen. This is also the show to me that feels the most like a TV show. There are just actual character subplots and things that are going on where the supporting cast just feels like they would on a normal TV show, and not this is just a very long movie and they just have to exist to fuel Kamala's story. I think there are so many creative flourishes that they do that are just unbelievably charming. I had seen comparisons from one of the cast members comparing it to Scott Pilgrim, and I was like, that's an interesting choice. And then actually watching it, I was like, oh my God, I can completely understand why. And it all works. It gets the energy of what Kamala brings to the Marvel universe down, and Iman Vellani just is perfect. I could not have imagined a better Kamala Khan than the one that we get from her. She gets just the charm and the whimsy and the emotional weight of what she brings, and I'm so excited to see more. I'm now super excited for this show to just be out in a couple weeks, because I feel like this is something that the Marvel fandom as a whole needed this. We needed to have fun with this after kind of the more dark and dire installments that we've gotten lately. So yeah, go ahead.
I'm super happy you brought up Scott Pilgrim, because you watch the trailer and I just assumed it was stylistic choices for marketing, but that's the show.
Yeah.
That's very much the show. So I was hyped to see it. They do all sorts of cool stuff with signage and things of that nature. It's cool. I can't wait for you guys to see.
Yeah, 1,000%. And then so pivoting to another installment in the happy MCU era, even though there, as people have speculated after this trailer release, might not be as happy as we think. The new trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder came out, and there is so much to unpack from it. We'll just go around first and kind of share our reactions. Aaron, since you're at the top of the leaderboard, you can go first.
I really liked it. I mean, of course, we had ample notice from Marvel this time, so no getting caught off guard. Although, oh boy, I feel bad for TJ, Damon, all you guys, and poor Layla, who was just dying to go to sleep, waiting for this thing. It sort of gave us enough to go on, but not too much, which I kind of appreciated. Because even if you've gone backwards and forwards through Jason Aaron's Thor run, you still don't know exactly what they're doing here. You know what I mean? And I kind of appreciate that. Of course, everyone looks fantastic. There are people from other parts of our company Slack asking me if Natalie Portman's arms are real, and I haven't explained that no, those guns are there. And yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to see. Because there was so many comments and sort of opinions about certain parts that are in the trailer now that we can all see what's real and what's not and be excited about it instead of like freaking out on what we think things are supposed to be.
That totally makes sense. Adam, what was your reaction?
I mean, pretty much the same. It looks so darn cool. Like, I mean, I just watched it. It looks so awesome. It's colorful. It's funny. I love funny stuff. But it's Gorr the God Butcher. It's not going to be funny. Some parts aren't. No, it looks so cool. I mean, I don't know. We saw the toys, right? We saw the toys, and I wasn't sure on the blue and yellow suit, but that blue and yellow suit looks amazing. It looks incredible. I love the mask, the helmet, the weird helmet. The Wolverine helmet. It's incredible. It proves Wolverine's mask can work. There's no way Wolverine comes to the MCU and doesn't have that mask. No way. I mean, we all love Hugh's hair. It was styled with the ears, but no, they're definitely going full Wolverine.
Absolutely.
No, speaking of Thor: Love and Thunder, yeah, that's it's a nice little. Plus, we don't know the plot, right? Yeah. I mean, what do we get? We know Gorr's going to kill a lot of gods. But they do so great with showing us nothing while showing us 2 minutes, you know?
I completely agree. I think like I tweeted ahead of time, my biggest worry for the trailer was like, I did not want to know the plot by the end of the trailer. I did not want to be able to discern the first, second, and third act of this movie by the time the trailer was over. And I think surprisingly they succeeded in that regard. After the Doctor Strange trailers and after the Spider-Man trailers, I was very worried of like, how much of this am I going to be able to forecast ahead of time? And like Aaron said, even if you've read Jason Aaron's Thor run, you still don't know how all of those pieces are going to like come together for this, which I think is great. The one thing that is distracting to me, I do love the helmet. I hate that I noticed that the helmets are CGI because it is so noticeable. And it's like, I'm hoping that the CGI is like slightly more refined in the finished film, because it was like, why can't these just be practical? Like that was like my one gripe with the trailer. But everything else, everyone looks great. There's just so much fun energy here. While, as we said, there's levity and super cool action scenes at the same time. But yeah, so we got our first look at Gorr the God Butcher after getting Lego figures and Marvel Legends and every other piece of merchandise except for the actual thing. We finally got Gorr, played by Christian Bale. He has a nose. He doesn't look exactly like he does in the comics, but that still ended up being okay. What do you guys think of how Gorr looks is being represented in the movie?
Adam, as the person who started this chat when the toys surfaced on the internet in the site, I feel like you should just go first because you have stronger opinions than me, I believe.
No, I got stronger opinions. I don't know if I should say them. We try to. I don't like it. All right, I don't like it. I don't like it. It could look different, but I mean, you know, whatever. I'm still here for it. I love the. So I got hype. See, he like walks out of the Venom stuff, which we'll probably talk about sometime. But he like walks out of that stuff, and I'm like, wait, they took off his nose, and then he takes down his hood, and then he doesn't. Gorr does evolve and stuff, so I'm still holding out hope that he might get the tendrils and stuff. I'm not gonna say it's a 1-star movie or give it a thumbs down for not being comic accurate. You know, I just think the comic one looks somewhat scarier. But then I also realized that nobody would know it's Christian Bale. You know, casual moviegoers probably won't know it's him the way it is. They'll be like, "Who's this spooky guy?" But whatever, man. I mean, all I want is that helmet. You know how Marvel Legends does like the life-size stuff? Hasbro, get on that weird helmet. That looks cool.
So what you're saying is Gorr made it a movie where you're just going to get a large popcorn, not an extra large popcorn at this point.
We'll see. We'll see. I love Thor Ragnarok's one of my favorite movies. So I mean, I was already at like 3 extra large popcorns. So we'll see. I'm not like a medium or small quite yet.
That makes sense. Aaron, what did you think of Gorr?
I get like both sides of it, because I do understand that we're not bringing in Christian Bale and paying the Christian Bale salary for us not to see his face. But I also know that people like it to be like the comics, and I hope, like Adam hopes, that maybe near the third act of the movie, maybe the sword makes him look a little scarier like he does in some of the panels, which could absolutely happen. Because if you notice, he has tattoos right here and right here at some parts of the trailer, and then he has scarring going on at others. So I'm like, oh, there's something funky going on here. Also, it looks like he's stabbing some planet or something. He's stabbing the ground with a very normal looking sword that does not look like the sword in that isolated shot of him on the cliff face, like picking it up with his crazy prosthetic nails. They've really been hyping his performance. Like Taika and other people in our industry have been talking about how scary he is, how horrifying he is, and then Taika being like, he's the best villain we've ever done in MCU. So as long as they deliver that for me, he could look like whatever. Like he could be, he could literally just be Christian Bale walking out with no makeup the entire time. Be like, what happened? He's like, I'm going to kill all of your gods. I'm going to kill all of them as just Christian Bale, not as Gorr the God Butcher.
I completely agree. I think it is a thing. You don't pay Christian Bale to put CGI dots on his face and not have him look like Christian Bale. Like I know when he had initially been cast in the movie, people were like, is he playing Beta Ray Bill? Because I feel like he would actually turn his face into a horse face if he was asked and if he was given enough time to prepare. So it's this thing of like, I know he is going to bring such a good performance that I don't mind if the design of the costume is a little bit different. I did want to ask, I know Adam can probably speak to this a little bit better. I know Aaron loves his black goop theory with the MCU, and there's a lot of Gorr stuff that's tied to Null and black goop. So can you give like the Cliff Notes version so that people can be a little bit more familiar with that?
Yeah. So essentially, the sword Gorr used during the God of Thunder run was retcon. Do we call it retcon, or explained further really recently, like almost as recent as they were writing the script for the movie? That the sword itself is actually the first symbiote ever created by Null, the god of the void, which is you guys read Donny Cates stuff. It's like heavy metal type stuff. So I mean, we're talking rights issues here. We're talking what's going on. Can Marvel use symbiotes or something like that? Certainly, probably not in this movie, but maybe whatever. So essentially, I mean, the prevailing theory, I mean, this is how fractured my brain is, guys. When I saw that scene with the creepy black stuff, I'm like, oh, Venom. But no, I don't know. I mean, it's just, we'll see. I mean, they could just give him the sword. They could give him, maybe are they going to call it all black? Or are they going to call what's the sword's name? Does the sword get a name? Is the sword a symbiote? Probably not. But that is the comic lore, if that makes sense. The sword's actually a symbiote. But we do know from Spider-Man that there is a chunk of a symbiote in the thing. And they were at like a beach bar type thing when the symbiote left, right? And Gorr does pick up the sword on a beach. So who knows what it is? We'll see. We'll see. We got like a month, right?
Yeah. I totally believe that at some point the sword is going to talk to him. I don't have anything to go off of, but I think the sword's going to talk to him. They're not going to do anything else. It's just going to whisper in his ear a little bit, or you're going to hear some weird disembodied voice. And I feel like we're at a point in geekdom where half the audience will lose their stuff if that indeed happens. But like you can't do all this breadcrumb dropping about the symbiotes and not have it all linked together. I mean, we've already seen another weird sword that looks really strangely similar, and like inch towards poor Dane Whitman, like was it 6 months ago? So like I don't know. I feel like that I wouldn't totally get my hopes up. It's not like he's gonna be like, you must kill the gods, Eddie. Like it's not gonna be that, but I feel like it's gonna encourage his bloodlust, I guess, right?
Yeah. I love your unified theory of black goop. I love seeing how this fits into that. Another theory that a lot of people have after the trailer is whether or not Jane might have gotten blipped, because when she and Thor are talking about like how long it's been since they've seen each other, there surprisingly is about a 4 or 5 year difference between the amount of time that Jane gives and the amount of time that Thor gives. So do you guys think that there's a possibility to that theory, or do you think it's just a thing of like time has just passed weirdly for Jane? Jane has had a lot of stuff going on and Thor is more obsessive about when their relationship ended.
So it's kind of pretzel-like, right?
Yeah.
Because she never was aware of his presence in Endgame, was she?
I don't know.
Like, because if she was aware of his presence in Endgame, like I don't know how that fits in, but like there is like a funny discrepancy and some other reported stuff from the script from Infinity War Endgame that she was in fact blipped, but we thought that Wong was blipped too, and he's the Sorcerer Supreme. So, like, I don't know how much we should take that as law. I feel like it is. They are playing up a lot of like, oh, Chris Hemsworth has been literally counting the hours since the last time they saw each other. So it could be him taking it to like really, really very sweet, but also kind of degree. I feel like that might be it.
Yeah, totally. And then another thing that a lot of people have noticed from the trailer, and I know Adam in particular was decoding all of this. So there's the one shot with Jane like activating the hammer, having lightning, and there are a bunch of statues behind her. So Adam, do you want to run through who we think those statues are? Because I know the Living Tribunal Hive is very happy that he keeps progressively getting more and more Easter eggs in Phase 4. So I'm curious. I want to hear your reaction.
Yeah, I'm totally super disappointed that again Daredevil wasn't the statues, because in War of the Realms, also from Jason Aaron, he becomes the Heimdall of the universe. Spoilers for a 2-year-old comic series, but no, it's give us the Living Tribunal. Like the gods are getting killed. When if someone messes up the multiverse and causes incursions and everybody's dying, and that doesn't warrant the interference of the ultimate judge being, what does? I mean, killing gods, right? Like, whatever. Yeah, who knows? It's positioned in a way we only really see two on the right, which are clearly the Living Tribunal and the Watcher. And then the left ones were what? Death, and the far one, some people think Infinity. And the middle one might be a pile of rocks. Some people say it's Eon, who is like Spaceman thing with an eye on his head. So it looks like Thanos to me. The chin, it could just be a pile of rock. It is super interesting that Jane's involved in this scene. Is this how Jane gets the powers? I mean, are they going to follow those, Jane's comic storyline, and does she get close to death or pass away from her illness, and these beings revive her because maybe Gorr killed all gods or something, and we don't have the time stone, so we have to reverse time. They're cosmic beings. Show us them. I mean, Taika said it was the most crazy movie he's ever made, right? Why not? If here on Earth, our gods are the supreme beings, right? But in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thor is a god, and Thor drinks mead at the Sanctum Sanctorum. So in the MCU, there needs to be someone above the gods. I mean, one could say, Thor, Love, and Thunder, the hierarchy of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, will change with the introduction of the Living Tribunal and other cosmic entities. Who knows? They're probably just statues. It's the same thing on Sakaar. We saw Man-Thing on Sakaar, and we'll probably eventually get Man-Thing. We saw Beta Ray Bill We saw who else? A bunch of other crazy people. Whatever. They're probably statues, but you know me. I go turn it up to 12. Show us everything. Show us Iron Fist punching the Living Tribunal and Thor: Love and Thunder. Let's just full send it. That's all I want.
Perfect. I do agree that felt like a Thanos chin. Like that was totally my first reaction, was that was a Thanos.
And the statue's right by death, so maybe they're holding hands or something. Very comic accurate again.
Yeah. 1,000%. And then some other cool things in the trailer. It looks like Valkyrie gets Zeus's lightning bolt, which is super cool. Only furthers the theories that Zeus is not long for this world. He is not going to have a lot of screen time in this movie, probably. And then the stinger of the trailer is Thor meeting Zeus, and we finally get to see what Russell Crowe looks like as Zeus, not just from the back. We do see Thor's butt. We do see that he has a Loki back tattoo, which is just a delightful little detail. It's like, of course he would be sentimental enough to get a gigantic back tattoo dedicated to his brother. I think that's just adorable. And then, we see Russell Crowe's Zeus. And then the last question, which the entire trailer's framing device has kind of provoked, is Thor going to die? Because the way that Korg is talking to the children at the start of the trailer, he's using a lot of past tense when he's talking about Thor. So do you guys think that that's going to be the case, or is it just going to be like, we think it's the case and then it's a fake out and Thor like walks out from behind the cave or something? Aaron, what do you think?
It's funny because there's so many fake outs that you really don't know, right? Like, I mean, that could literally not be in the movie. Like, we have precedent for such things. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to say. I've seen that gain a lot of traction on social media, that this is like the end of the movie and he's telling the kids about like Thor's adventures, and that's how, like, the legend of Thor lives on. I can't imagine them killing off Hemsworth in this. That it just seems like it would be really wild. I mean, maybe so, and maybe it would just catch us all like completely flat-footed and we just wouldn't know what to do. But I think a much surer bet is him letting Jane rock for a couple movies and him adopting some other moniker, one of the gajillion other monikers that Thor has had in in the comics. Like, we already, sadly, I don't think it's gonna be Thunderstrike, unfortunately, because I feel like we used that up with the awesome, unnecessary red leather vest that he's rocking the beginning of it. But yeah, it seems like a bit for the trailer. I hope that it's a bit for the trailer, because it would be sad if he's like gone. It'd be like, oh no, like, how sad. He did all that pulling that freaking ship for nothing.
Yeah, Adam, what do you think?
I think he's dead. I honestly think he's dead. I mean, the good thing about Norse mythology is, Valhalla is more of a place than it is a realm or like a dimension or something. So, I mean, kill him. He could go there. I mean, I love, both of you know, I absolutely love Thor's arc in the MCU. It's, but I don't see any way it ends without him dead or super content with himself. But I don't think he can be content with himself when he's missing everyone he depended on, even though he didn't realize he depended on. I don't know. I think he's dead. People are saying Chris Hemsworth signed a brand new deal. I question the outlets reporting that or the sites, but we'll see. I mean, I think Lizzie Olsen just said that there's virtually no contracts and it's just kind of like a one-off thing, because nobody's going to do a Marvel movie, make millions of dollars and move on. Right? They'll come back for a second one and make double the millions. But what I think he's probably dead, but that doesn't mean the end. I mean, they could, they could go to hell. They could go to Valhalla. I mean, it's all cut out in the Tree of Life, right? The Tree of Life and Yggdrasil and all that stuff in mythology, and they've barely really dipped their toes into that. So if this is Chris Hemsworth's movie, we saw him on the wrap photo. We saw him on the wrap photo with the logo of the Tree of Life. So who knows? We'll see. I think Thor's dead. I'm sorry.
We have two completely conflicting POVs. I can go either way. I think like I would not be surprised if Taika did it as a fake out and it ultimately we think he's dead and then he ends up being okay. But also Taika is very good at heavy emotional beats. Anyone who's watched Jojo Rabbit knows that in spades. So it's like I could see him, if this really is Hemsworth's last movie, I could see Taika being able to stick the landing and give him like a proper send off. But as you said, I feel like even if he dies, we still have secret wars eventually on the horizon. We still have other ways just through Norse mythology that he could appear. So I think like even if he's dead, he's not going to be fully gone. But that being said, Taika did do an interview with Total Film that kind of has to do with what we were talking about. And he was talking about Thor having a break and then saying Mjolnir to Jane. It was like it's the idea that someone is taking his place. I think a lot of fans are going to potentially assume, oh, okay, so this is a passing on of the torch. I'm not privy to any plans that Marvel has for the future, but I don't think that's the case. So it seems like he's suggesting that even though Jane is going to be Thor, there might be room for both of them, and they like Thor himself might not necessarily die. So we'll have to see. And then he also said with what we were talking earlier about Jane's storyline, he said we stick pretty closely to Jane's storyline and what happened to Jane because that was such an influence on the film. We were trying to take the best parts of that. So hopefully we can just hope for the best and trust them to kind of interpret this the way that it would make sense. But yeah, I could go either way, whether or not Thor dies. I think we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, did y'all have any other thoughts or reactions to the trailer?
How our Valkyrie? Like, do we have any idea? Like, of the we heard some weird stuff from Tessa Thompson about her like powers in this, and there's not a single hint of any of that in these clips. Not even kind of.
Because I remember when she said that, she then had to backtrack and be like, I was just talking about in the comics, like, this isn't necessarily a thing in the movie. You know, it's not a Photoshop. So, like, we'll just have to wait and see whether or not she, like, that actually ends up being a thing. I'm just happy we got to hear her, like, actually have dialogue, and we got to hear her, Jane, be in the little gossip corner. Like, it was just excellent. So, I'm just happy that Valkyrie's in this movie to begin with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to break down more MCU news, including the first details about the Daredevil reboot. So stay tuned. All right, we're back. Thank you to Peter, our producer, for the wonderful mid-show graphic of Loki giving Thor a tattoo. That is just top-notch. But yeah, so we have some other MCU news of the week to talk about. Adam, do you want to talk about kind of the Echo news that has come out in the past week?
Yeah, Echo, Marion, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I'm so sorry. I don't want to say it. The head writer of Echo shared a photo of production starting with director Sidney Freeland. And on the slate is a new logo, more contemporary maybe than what was previously revealed. Maybe it's the final version that appears in the opening title and all that stuff. But as we've seen with everything else, the logos change. I mean, Thor Love and Thunder is on its 6th or 7th logo, you know, so we got a new logo. Echo's filming. The possibilities for the series are endless. I'm also excited to see where they go with her. And the good thing about Echo is it has the best chance to be one of Marvel's most original stories yet. I mean, I don't think Echo's ever she just got like a one shot because she's spoiler alert, the Phoenix in the Marvel universe, but she's never had a self-titled series. She's always been a supporting character and all this stuff. And there's not that much source material to pull from. Otherwise, it's just remaking those comics panel by panel. So, yeah, it's Marvel Studios' best chance to make a completely original series, and it's probably going to be Marvel's most original series, and I'm excited about that aspect for it. It has a stacked cast. The director behind Reservation Dogs is helming it, or at least part of it. It's always good for the variety, right? We're going to space with Thor: Love and Thunder. We're going to probably some underwater places in Black Panther 2, and then we're going to Jersey City with Miss Marvel, and then we're going to the swamp and the nexus of all realities with Man Thing and the Halloween special, and then Christmas and all this stuff. So why not another street level series in next year, right? It'll probably be a 2023 thing.
Hopefully.
Plus, you guys know who comes with Echo, right? I mean, I don't even need to say the words. You guys just know what characters come with Echo.
Your best friend, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yes.
Yeah, I do have to say to your logo point, as a She-Hulk fan, it is like never expect a logo to be permanent. Like it'll probably change at some point, but I do like the new logo that they're using for production. I hope that sticks in some way because it's very cool. And I totally agree. I think the show is going to be something super special and super unique. Also because of the fact that like she's never really had a solo comic, so I feel like there's a lot of narrative possibilities with her. Aaron, what do you think?
I'm just really happy for Laqua Cox, man.
Yes.
I just couldn't imagine like working in freaking warehouse and then 2 years later it's like, oh yeah, we're getting a giant Disney Plus series that's just me. And it's not an adaptation of anything, any one comic run or anything. It's just like, we're doing this. All native production, like the writer's room has very good like representation across the board. It's going to be really interesting. And it's fulfilling one of those things that a lot of us want from Phase 4 right now, which is, I'm going to go into this thing, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen. And that is a great feeling. You're just like, oh, well, I'll just be completely surprised. I can't wait. And she was really good in Hawkeye, Damon. I agree. So it's going to be a good time. I know a lot of people are like, we'll be watching from the when is our boy going to show up? But I think her adventures on her own will be very fascinating to watch too, in addition to all that.
Absolutely. So Adam did mention it a little bit, but do you want to talk about the Black Panther related rumors and news of the week?
Sure. So there was a wrap gift for Black Panther Wakanda Forever that's making the rounds, and it has a little bit of like Aztec flavor that some of us were surprised to see. So basically it's a hat with Aztec like jaguar god, sort of like, sort of like cartoonized version of it on there, and some writing in like the sort of fictional language in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for what we assume is going to be like the bad guys people. I'm tiptoeing around this so hard. Like there's so much that has like come out in the last week, like and I haven't seen a single clear picture of some concept art from this movie. But the Jaguar God stuff is interesting because it's like, man, everybody kept asking. Kofi has a wonderful piece on this site about recalibrating our like sort of expectations about Phase 4, but it does seem like it is starting to come together. Like it is starting to like sort of coalesce. I know it felt really scattershot here in the beginning, the opening frames of it, but this is what the third thing that we're gonna have different sets of gods in, judging by, and then I guess that's how you feel about like the TVA. But yeah, third or fourth thing with a bunch of like weird sentient people running other people's stuff. So it's exciting to hear that that's sort of the direction they're going to go, and that it's like all sort of coalescing together. That this also would point to a very different origin for the villain of Wakanda Forever that does not seem like it is derived from the comics in any sort of incarnation I've heard, but would be interesting and would link it to Eternals, because isn't the Battle of Tenochtitlan isn't that like related to the Aztec region, and you would think that their gods would step in there too to like help them out, and it was like, no, It was just freaking, like, you guys can't do this. But I think we should let them, because we need to feed the celestial egg in the heart of the planet. a lot of gods asleep at the wheels. The last, 4 or 5 months, half a year here. So what did you guys think of like the wrap gift stuff? What do you think about it?
I think it's super interesting, and I know the comments have mentioned it too. Like you said, there's a very blurry concept art, promo art photo, potato quality photo of who may or may not be the villain of Black Panther 2. And I think if this is the direction that they are going with introducing that character in that world, I think it is a very interesting and kind of inspired choice. And I granted, I can't speak to the specifics of all of it, but I think it'll be very cool to kind of see how that's juxtaposed with Wakanda. But yeah, Adam, what do you think?
I think if that very blurry photo is actually accurate, the internet, not only the internet, but this chat is so thirsty. We're gonna have to ready the debunking gifts. I mean, we're just gonna have to get everything on ready. Well, we all want to see. He is the oldest character in the Marvel's library that's never made it to live action, bar none. Even the original Human Torch had an Easter egg in Iron Man or Iron Man 2, right? So yeah, bring it on. I can't wait. I mean, Aaron brought it up. It's starting to tie together. Everything has to do with gods or multiverses, or how's it going to be, whatever. I'm here for it. I am deadly afraid of open water though. So we will see what Black Panther 2 does to my psyche.
Between that and Avatar 2, you might be in trouble. And Aquaman 2. You just have all water movies coming up.
Yeah.
And then in other news, completely different universe, also tied to the multiverse, Madam Web is supposedly going to start filming this spring. That was according to Sony exec Tom Rothman. I would think that we are already almost in summer. I don't know what they regard to be spring, so I would have assumed that would have started production soon, if not already. But like, we now are getting more cast members. Ghostbusters Afterlife star Celeste O'Connor has joined the cast, so this movie's starting to come together. Hopefully they will start filming soon. Hopefully we will get some sort of indication of what this movie is going to be, because I know it's kind of become a running joke in our comic book Slack about how if you go with the original Madam Web, this is going to be a very interesting movie, but if you go with like Julia Carpenter, it's going to be a completely different movie. So it'll just be kind of interesting to see how this all comes together. What do y'all think about the Madam Web of it all?
Jenna, you've been joking forever that like until we see anything of any of this, like it's just vaporware, right? And I mean, it seems like it's moving forward. If you believe these executives, they're like super adamant that this is going to be like a thing. This is going to be crazy. And the most popular depictions of Madam Web are directly with Spider-Man in like either Spider-Man animated series or Spider-Verse, the Spider-Verse comic series that came out a couple years ago. Like, how in the world is this going to make sense without like a Spider-Man attached to it is my question. And I don't know the answer to that. So it's interesting. It's fun that they're moving forward, that they're actually having ideas. All I care about is El Muerto too, Layla.
There you go.
Thank you, Layla.
That's what it's really going to be. He's going to come in at the end and be like, I can do this. And it's like, oh, yes. It's all just literally the Madam Web movie is not actually Madam Web. It's just Bad Bunny suplexing people for 2 hours. And you can get my ticket for that. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get some more things soon. I am a little bit worried that it seems that the Kraven movie is further along and makes a little bit more cohesive like sense than this. But yeah, we hold judgment until there's more to talk about.
Absolutely. As I've joked with the Kraven set photos in Slack, he looks like an off-duty dinner waiter in all of the set photos of him, just in that white button-up and black pants. So it's like, I'm very curious to see more, because based on how long they've been filming, that seems to be the bulk of what we gotten. But yeah, Adam, what do you think about the Madam Web of it all?
Oh, I think about it, that's for sure. We could say whatever we want about Sony, but I just want to say the decisions they make at that studio are just completely unhinged, and I absolutely love it. It gives me so much hope to see. They're making a feature film. They're spending tens of millions, hundreds of $1 million on a character that appeared in 2 comic book issues. Anything's on the table. Marvel Studios sees this and see Morbius makes more than $10 million. They're like, wait, but we have the Marvel Studios logo we can make. We can go even deeper into our stable and make $1 billion off of a character nobody even knew about. We could actually get the alien race called the Viscardi in the MCU at some point. It's just crazy. So say what you want about Venom, say what you want about Morbius. We like to more about it here on the podcast, right? Applaud Sony for just taking the massive set they have to make movies based on whoever the hell they want to, even though those are the only characters they can make movies. But we'll sweep that part under the rug and say, hey, they take risks.
I can tell you right now, the screening of Morbius like this coming semester at my undergrad institution, because they do movie nights in the auditorium, is probably going to be rocking. They love a weird movie that's like the internet meme. There's going to be a lot of Morbin out.
And I was going to say, Adam said it made more than 10 million. I think the actual number was 3 billion tickets, if the meme was 3 billion.
Nice grossing ever.
Obviously. And then also related to the Sony Spider-Man of it all, Tom Rothman also said, because this was on an interview with Deadline, he did say that he hopes that that whole group returns for Spider-Man 4, which the interviewer was specifically talking about John Watts, Tom Holland, and Zendaya. So we had already kind of known this. This had been hinted, I think, when Watts left Fantastic Four. I think this was buried the lead somewhere in there. But so knowing that Zendaya would hopefully come back for 4 and John Watts would hopefully come back to direct is definitely interesting. We'll have to wait and see how that actually manifests, because I could see Watts coming back and doing the next trilogy, but I also could see him being busy with the new Star Wars show that he has and kind of having to pass the torch to another director. So what do y'all think? Do you hope that John Watts and Zendaya return?
I mean, I would like it, just because, I mean, I'm always down to see other people's takes on this stuff. I mean, the funny thing is that I talked with another one of my friends who really likes film, who doesn't do all this comic book stuff and is very just like dips their toes into it. And he's just like, what do people really love about those Spider-Man movies? And I'm like, they're just really like dependable. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you get your drink from whatever eatery you want, and you take a sip of it. And if you don't expect, like, you know, like if you order a Coke and then you open up the can and it's milk, you're going to be a little bit upset, right? But every time you open up the drink, it's like, oh, yes, this is exactly what I expected. It's serviceable. It'll have the laughs. It'll have like the tone we're looking for, like that sort of stuff. So he's very dependable in that way. I love Zendaya, so I would like her to be in it still. I know that a lot of people want Black Cat. I know a lot of people want Gwen Stacy. All that is great. They can both be in the movie. Is my answer to that. We can have all of it. We don't have to choose. Why do we have to choose? For what? So I hope that does happen. I hope that she comes back. She seems like she'd be kind of like busy too. Like, I'm surprised she hasn't signed up to any bigger franchise stuff than this. So that if you want to read into that, like we'd like to in these nerd circles, maybe that means it's further down the tracks than we thought, you know?
Yeah. I will say it is the most on-brand thing for Peter Parker to have like 3 different love interests in one movie. Like, that is the one thing that I feel like we haven't really gotten into, and I would love to see that in the 4th movie. But yeah, Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I want to see Spider-Man 4 solely for the reason because I want like the Sinister Six, but the chaos of introducing 6 completely new actors and villains instead of everything that they've built on before. That's the only reason I want Spider-Man 4.
Perfect. Aaron, before we get to Daredevil, do you want to talk about the Agatha House of Harkness news?
Sure. In honor of one Jamie Jirak, yes. I will give you guys the lowdown on. We have some new writers for Agatha House of Harkness. The WGA listings revealed that Cameron Squires, who wrote episode 7 of WandaVision, and Laura Downey, who wrote episode 8, are joining Agatha House of Harkness, which is now tabbed for 2023 to 24 release. So probably next year, maybe early 24. We can all dream. I feel like they're just going to keep adding more and more of these to every year. So buckle up. Like, it's just going to be packed every 2 months, a new Disney Plus series for us to watch and geek out over. It's great. I like that they're going to try and carry over some of the tone from WandaVision, and I know everybody's aching. Like, after my dad and his fiance went to see Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, they had not seen WandaVision, and I told my prospective stepmom to go back and rewatch the series, and she was so heartbroken when I told her, I'm like, there's probably not going to be any more. Like, I don't think there's going to be a season 2. And you're like, no, but I want more. And I was like, I mean, there's like Agatha series coming up. That'll be fun, right? And it's like sort of like giving the kid like the second in line. Plus, you're like, there'll be this. Like, I hope. But Catherine Hahn is no one's second runner-up. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. And also, they're very tight-lipped about what this is going to be about, too. We have no clue what this is going to be about. All of us assumed it would be an ensemble thing, and it's probably not going to be an ensemble thing now for reasons that we're not going to say here, because there might be people in the chat who've still not seen the movie. But yeah, what do you guys think? Are you excited for more Agatha? More musical numbers?
I'm excited conceptually for this show because I think it is the most on-brand thing to have WandaVision be this ode to sitcoms and then to spin off the most successful character from the sitcom supporting cast of like that has happened thousands of times in like the 60s, 70s, 80s. So it's like, of course, Agatha would naturally get her own show. I'm so curious to see what the tone of this is going to be and how sitcom-y it may or may not be. So I think just having more Catherine Hahn is cool. I think getting into the magic of it is cool, and having WandaVision people on board definitely helps. So yeah, Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I hope it's spooky. I hope it's fun. I hope it's hilarious. I can't wait. Speaking of characters that don't have that much source material, I mean, Agatha certainly has more than Echo, but you know what? Let's start the campaign right now of getting Bova in
yes,
in Agatha House of Harkness, please. We got the Green Minotaur. He was supposed to speak. Maybe he even groaned when he almost died. But we're halfway there. Give us the talking cow. Let's get Bova. Someone in the chat come up with a hashtag. We need to start the campaign right now. Bova for Agatha, something like that.
Marvel,
I completely agree.
Marvel, give us a Bova and Towerette tea party, and I will never. I will shill for anything.
This is why they need to bring back the one shots, so we can just have something like that, and it can just exist on its own. That would be great. And then our last piece of news, speaking of fan campaigns and speaking of hashtags that Adam is intimately familiar with, it was announced last week that we are getting a Daredevil series on Disney Plus. Adam, do you want to go into the specifics in your initial reaction? I know anyone who follows you on Twitter has seen that you have a lot of thoughts about this.
My initial reaction, it was, Aaron knows what I'm talking about, the Kevin Garnett give. Anything is possible. It was hilarious. Charlie Ridgely called me. I hadn't even been on my phone, and I got a call from Charlie, and I picked up. He's like, Adam, you need to get on the internet right now. I said, why? What happened? I thought someone died. And then I opened up Slack, and I cried. I sobbed. I wept for days. No, I was like, oh, bleep, 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 bleep. Hell yeah, we're getting I think we all knew we were getting Daredevil. Daredevil's, I mean, as A-list as Marvel gets, right? So I think we all assumed we were getting it, but we're getting it. We're getting a Daredevil series. And I'm sure a lot of people will come back, and I'm sure we'll get a suit that is not a scarf tied around his head. And I'm sure we'll probably get some cool swinging baton shots that Marvel Television could never afford. We might get, the Beast with the hand. I remember back when everyone thought Ms. Weaver was playing the Beast in the Defenders. How wrong we were. But no, we're getting a Daredevil show, and now I don't have any hashtags to tweet about positively.
So that's why we need to start the Bova hashtag.
Yes, Bova,
Koki's
please.
in here with House of Bova, and I think that's excellent. I think we should go with that. But yeah, so the Daredevil reboot is the head writers are Matt Corman and Chris Ord, who co-created Covert Affairs and did some other movies. This supposedly will be a continuation of the Netflix series, which, like, obviously we've already had Kingpin and stuff. I know we've debated about this many a time on this podcast, but it seems like now that these shows are on Disney Plus, that does make sense of the way to go narratively. Adam spoke to like what he wants to personally see return. The one thing that I did want to ask about, though, and I know you have debated about this with many people on the internet, does it need to be rated R? I am in the camp that it doesn't. I know you have spoken about R-rated stuff so many times, so I'm curious what you think now that this is actually in the works.
No, it doesn't. I mean, sorry, I'm going to process my thoughts here so I
Yeah.
don't upset people. Or say something I shouldn't that gets me fired. No, it doesn't need to be rated R. Look at every single Daredevil comic that's ever come out, even the darkest ones, and they've never had, they've never been rated R. They don't need the they don't need it. I mean, what do we want to see Kingpin drop an F bomb? You embarrassed me in front of bleeping Vanessa or so. I mean, what's the rated R for? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, people think of Blade and people like hail Blade as the harbinger of R-rated Marvel. Blade was rated R because of the ice skate uphill the comment and the blood rave at the beginning of the movie. He stabbed vampires and they disintegrated and there wasn't any blood. That's exactly what Marvel's going to do in its Blade movie, and it's not going to be rated R. I mean, Netflix was TVMA or whatever. I mean, I don't even think streaming is rated, but nothing in that series even stood out as rated R. Kingpin took someone's head off with a car door, but even in that process, you don't see his eyes dangling from his head like The Walking Dead and whatever. It doesn't need to be rated R. I mean, it doesn't need to be rated R. They're going to do fine with it. They're going to bring in awesome stunt people. If they don't do a hallway fight, that's the type of stuff that might, annoy me. I mean, we got a pseudo hallway fight in Hawkeye, the one-shot car chase or whatever, but Daredevil doesn't need to be rated R. I mean, and this is coming from a guy that said every superhero thing ever must be rated R. You're like, we need a hard R Miss Marvel. I can't wait for hard R Spider-Man. Just decapitating Venom and person like a sailor. No, I mean, Daredevil doesn't need to be a hard R, guys. I mean, maybe we'll get an adult. I mean, we're getting Deadpool. I mean, even then, I mean, we could go down that slope. Deadpool's not even an adult character in the comic books because he jokes about chimichangas all day. But whatever, I mean, Daredevil does not need to be hard R. We've seen someone decapitated or cut in half by Captain America's shield, one of the most iconic pieces, one of the most iconic MacGuffins in the world of pop culture. And there was blood and probably intestines and maybe some chunks of lung dripping off the shield. I mean, what else do you guys want? What do you want? Do you want Daredevil to like shoot people? I don't know. Daredevil does not need to be R-rated. It'll be fine on Disney Plus.
I agree. I think we've had more than enough on Disney Plus. I always like to remind people, it's like the very first Disney Plus series, Mando, opens with him cutting a guy in half with a door. So it's like anything is possible. There's a lot of creative ways to show violence and show brutality without having to directly make it like TVMA rated R, whatever. So I think there's a lot that you can do here in terms of a potential. I'm just happy that he's back. Aaron, what's up?
Oh, I'm just laughing at everybody in the chat and be like, I came in at hard R. Like, what's going on over
Uh-oh.
Please watch the rewind. It'll all make sense, please.
Trust me, yeah. But yeah, like Adam, to Adam's point, I am not a Daredevil super fan, but like the comics that I have read, his relationship with violence and his relationship with how that intersects with his religion and stuff is something you can play with in a fun way that doesn't always have to be TVMA. I think you can do it in a really fun way. I personally love the Mark Waid run of Daredevil. I think if there was any element of that, I think that would be cool. I think, there are rumors he might appear in another show that is set on the West Coast, so it would be very cool to lean into that. But I think this character has been around for so long, and there are so many different swaths to his portrayal that like you can make this show work and keep the energy of the show without having to tonally keep it the same. But yeah, Aaron, what do you think about it?
The only thing that needs to be R in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Squirrel Girl. That's it. No, yes. I mean, I think after all the like pearl clutching that went on after Multiverse of Madness, that we could get down to PG-13 all day now. I feel like we've proven that you don't necessarily need that. Heck, I mean, we talked about after the Batman, like, yeah, you could probably get this done without doing all that. And it can still be intense and affecting and engrossing without necessarily relying on like the shock of like, oh my God, it's rated R to like get it across. I mean, what is the Marvel Comics edict or the Marvel Studios edict is to tell good stories, right? And as long as it's telling a good story it can be more intense, or it can be, man, I need to get, like, oh my God, I'm going to flunk my classes, and the stakes are exactly the same. Like that's one of my flourishes I really love from No Way Home is that he is infinitely more like upset about we're not going to get into school than like the rest of his life disintegrating in front of his eyes, which I'm like, yeah, as like a 16, 18-year-old person, you're like, but I can't go to the dance. What are we going to do? And that's like Thanos attacking when you really think about it. It's just very, I have faith that they're going to choose the right people and put them in a place to be successful, and we'll get good stories out of it. And I know that a lot of the Daredevil fan base has been waiting for this for a long time, and some of them might not be as like open to it as Adam. But if you listen to Adam and Comic Book Nation's other podcast conversations with this D'Onofrio, this is the same. This is as close to the same as you get. So I don't think they would just willingly just tee everybody off with like, oh, we're just going to ignore you guys on purpose. It's going to be G-rated. It's actually going to be claymation. Like, they're not going to do that. So
I'm down.
It's going to be a preschool series.
That's
and like,
right.
yeah, we have parental controls on Disney Plus now for a reason. So it's like, if this show has to be something that is then behind the parental controls, then like, so be it. But if it doesn't, that's also okay too. And then kind of the last bit of Daredevil Defenders related news is Kristen Ritter and Mike Coulter posted a photo together recently, just off of the like tail of this being announced. So that obviously sparked speculation about whether or not they could come back as Luke and Jessica. Do you guys want to see that? How, like, I know Adam does. I know Adam wants a full Iron Fist Defenders, everything. But like, do we hope that they come back sooner than later?
Yeah, I mean, we'll bring it all back. And that's the other difficulty we're going to get into. How do you bring in Daredevil and make it a continuation of everything else? Because this thing leads to this thing, which leads to this thing, which leads to this thing. You can all, wave away whatever you don't want with the multiverse stuff, which is why it exists, and it will probably never go away. I think we're probably stuck with the multiverse for a while. Are they just trolling people? I don't know.
I would not
Probably,
be surprised.
Maybe she scribbled something out on a sticker or a button. Jessica Jones season 1 is dynamite television.
Yes.
It's whether you like superheroes, you hate superheroes, whatever. It's incredible TV. So as long as they can replicate that sort of magic, I guess it's not really magical because it's it's terrible content within. You guys know what I'm trying to say. It's a damn good series, and if they can replicate that grittiness and groundedness and that humanity and that heart, bring it back. Plus, who doesn't want to see Dave Tennant come back? I think we all want him in the MCU, right? Maybe?
Yeah.
Yes? No? Bring Killgrave back.
Like you said, it would be narratively very tough, but I think it would be really great to see him back. I do think, to your point about like hand waving stuff away and dealing with the multiverse, that like I've made this point on the show several times. It'll almost have been a decade really since we saw these characters last. Like when you take into account the blip and everything else, you are not the same person that you were 7 or 8 years ago. So I think that there's a lot of ways that they can narratively be like, oh, so and so was left off in this point, but by the time we see them next, they're in a completely different point. So I think like they luckily have that storytelling device blipped or thrown in of like who got blipped, who didn't, how did life change for them in the meantime, and I think that can help kind of answer a lot of those questions, hopefully. But we'll see. But yeah, do either of y'all have any other comments about the Daredevil reboot? I know Adam can talk about it for like.
No, I can talk about it all day. Like Killgrave, I can't wait for them to like bring back Killgrave just so Peter has to make a supercut of all the Jessica.
We should just start it now. Just get it ready.
Yes, just might as well start it. But
yeah, Aaron, do you have any final thoughts about the Daredevil of it all?
I'm just excited to see what they end up doing. I'm happy for everybody that really wanted it. I mean, it was not a time not too long ago where we didn't think that there was going to be any movement with the Snyder fans. Didn't think there's going to be any with Daredevil, and we are clearly in a different world now. We are clearly in a place where literally anything can and will come back, and you should be prepared for it to come back. I mean, we had freaking Ben Affleck's Batman show up in Chippendale over the weekend. So anything is literally possible. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Well, I think that does it for today's episode of Phase Zero. This was so much fun. We had so much to go through, and I think this was really great. Aaron, do you have any closing thoughts or final plugs?
I'm on Twitter at Lake Hornet. I am actually doing the review for Miss Marvel. So in what is it, like a week and a half? You can look out for that.
Yep.
And yeah, go read some comics. And I want to keep people in like slight serious detour. Keep the people in Texas in your minds, in your thoughts, as we go forward through the day, and be grateful for what we all have and the people in our lives.
Absolutely. Adam, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Adam Barnhart. I promise to never tweet about Zeus again and echo all of their sentiments about earlier.
And go read comics. Go read Adam's comics. He has some great comics. And yeah, definitely go follow him on Twitter to get more info about that. You can find me on Twitter at Hey It's Jenna Lynn. You can find the show at Phase Zero CB. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our show if you haven't already. Leave us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. That would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Peter crushing it, man.